All right, y'all. It is showtime. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Tanushree Dugrala, and I'm here with Akshaya today. Akshaya, are you online? Okay, yes, I see you. Well, Akshaya is also on call. Please say hi. And today we're just going to be doing a very big overview about a lot of things to do with the college admission process and put a whole lot of time to you guys to ask any questions that you may have. Before we get started, and as I do my little intro, I was very curious to see who we have with us today. So, if you guys could take a quick second and in the chat, just put in your name, whether you're a parent or a student, and kind of tell me what grade you guys are in, right? Middle school, 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, just so we know our audience today and we can cater to y'all. So go ahead and put that in the chat. Those should be rolling in. And while that happens, let me give you guys an intro. My name is Tanushree Dagarala. As I mentioned before, I've been doing these series for the past couple of months because as a older sibling, sister myself, I was one of the first people to go through the college process in the US in my family. And I firsthand know how many questions arise during the process and how obscure and unclear a lot of the pathways that you can take through this process are. So, my aim is through this series to give you guys access to someone that is more of your own age or has gone through the process recently so that I can best help you guys answer any pressing questions that you may have, and maybe help you think in ways that you haven't thought about before. And that is really the premises of this entire series. So thank you again for coming in. Today, as I mentioned before, we have one of my closest friends, Akshaya Sakala, on call. And she actually goes to university with me at UT Austin. And without further ado, I'll do a quick introduction on myself and then let Akshaya introduce herself as well. So some of you might know this already from the other webinars. If not, nice to meet you again. I am studying in the business honors program with a double major in business analytics at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm also minoring in anthropology and finance. And I hope that this goes to show how your major itself doesn't have to be the main indicator for everything that you do in college or with your career. It's very volatile. You can shape it to be whatever you want to be. And we'll talk about that a little today as well. To give you guys a little description of my high school involvement, I was a PSAT National Merit finalist. I was a salutatorian of my high school class. And throughout the past couple of years, I have to update that number. I've tutored over 150 students in SAT. I've had multiple students that I've gone through counseling with. And really, I've spent a lot of time with the college process. So I'm happy to talk to you guys today. All right. Oh, okay. All right. Maybe now you guys see the slide. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Next, Akshaya, can you unmute yourself and please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. And I was really happy when Thanu asked me to come and talk a little bit about myself and like college and college admissions and everything else. I'm also a student at the University of Texas at Austin. So I'm a sophomore right now, majoring in business honors and finance with a computer science minor, or more accurately, a certificate. And I'm a 40 Acre Scholar, which is a scholarship program at UT that offers full ride scholarships. And then previous experience, um, I took the PSAT and SAT and scored well on those. And I was involved in a bunch of different student organizations in high school.
Thank you, Akshaya. And just to give you guys a little disclaimer, Akshaya is one of the most well-spoken people that I have ever met. She's very, very insightful, and she has explored a lot to kind of get here. And I'm not sure if you mentioned this already, but she's actually from Seattle, Washington, I believe, right?
And kind of closer to Portland, but yes.
Gotcha. So Portland, Washington. And so
Portland, Oregon.
Oregon. I'm so sorry. Yes, wait, she's from What I mean to say is she's from out of state and she has come to UT Austin. And that itself poses a very, very different lens to everything that she kind of took. And on top of it, though she undersells it, she is a 40-acre scholar, which is a very, very high prestige and honor to have, especially at UT Austin. And again, it really speaks to the merit that she has. And she has a lot of valuable information to share with you guys. So without further ado, I see that a lot of you guys have introduced yourself. That's wonderful. Okay, I see everyone from 9 through 11th grade. All right, super. So hopefully this helps you guys for the next couple of months as you're either getting into the application process or if you're in 9th or 10th grade, thinking early into what you want to do. So to give you guys a little agenda for what to expect today, I'll be touching a little bit on what holistic admissions means, right? What is your entire next 8-month journey going to look like if you're a junior, etc., when you're applying to colleges? And then two, we're going to be talking a little bit about choosing your path, right? Whether that be what major you want to do, what universities you want to apply to. And then Akshaya is going to touch a little bit about the out of state experience because I know that a lot of the people here are from Texas, and it's very daunting for us to think about a university outside of our own state, but it comes with a lot of benefits that you can think about, or even cons if you really want to think about that too. And I think Akshaya will touch a lot upon that as well. And then we're going to open up the rest of the time for a Q&A. Where you guys can pose any questions that you have, and we're more than happy to.
Okay.
All right. And guys, just for the duration of this call, if you guys could stay muted until we get to the Q&A session, that'd be great. If you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat as we talk, and I'll take pauses as we go to kind of answer them. All right. All right. Okay, so first off, before we get started, this is something that I preemptively prepped at a previous webinar as well. Just remember that when you're in high school, there is no journey that is the same. Whether you're hearing our stories or a lot of the, I'm sure, upperclassmen or college students that you've talked to before, you're going to notice that every single person had a different approach to not only how they got into college, but how they're utilizing their college experience for their future career and planning. That being said, you'll notice that a lot of really successful students always start early. And that is because the college admission process is something that is kind of that gives you the amount of benefit depending on the amount of effort that you put in. There is a lot of wonderful resources, programs, etc. out there, and unless you research and put your best foot forward, you're not even going to find them in order to apply. Whether you're eligible or not, that's really the second step. So early planning is definitely the best planning when it comes to college prep. That being said, make sure that you're open to explore and don't be afraid to initiate, especially when you're a freshman to an early junior. These are your golden years to make sure that you're touching on lots of different majors, lots of different fields, so that you don't feel a regret of, oh, why didn't I consider that later on? And as we'll talk about a little bit later today, you'll realize that really there isn't such a thing as too late to start, right? Whether that be major or perfecting your test scores or improving in school, it's really never too late unless you don't take that initiative ever. So just keep that in mind. And you guys are really in charge of your own career. And that starts with the college process. So again, good job on being here today and trying to educate yourself within it. Now, to start off, when I say holistic admissions process, what do I mean? Well, this is a term that a lot of colleges have been using, especially now more than ever with ChatGPT and AI and all of this kind of coming into the mix. And what that means is they're not just going to look at you as an academic student, but as a human as a whole when evaluating whether to give you a seat in the college or not. Now, to take a look at this, I've kind of broken it down into 6 different things. The first 5 are what the college is going to look at, and the last one is what I want you guys to look at. Now, first you have your academic transcript. So your academic transcript is going to obviously talk about your GPA. If you're in Texas, the whole rule about top 10%, 6%, and that changes from state to state. But it's talking about how you're improving within your grades within the first couple of years of high school. And I hope you notice that I said improving, not that you're the best from the very beginning. Whenever people look at your academic transcripts, they want to see that you started at a level and you either maintain that level if it's like very high, or you've grown over the years to show that your determination, your learning styles, and all of these have adapted to make you a stronger student. And two, what they look at is the type of coursework that you end up taking. When I say type of coursework, I want you guys to make sure to balance both how much can I do and what are the best things that I can do, right? Whether that be AP courses, taking courses in community colleges, etc. And I have gone into detail over the next couple of things in some of my other webinars if you guys want to check them out. But for now, I'll just kind of skim them over for the sake of time. And then two, you have your standardized test scores. So you have your SAT or ACT, one or the other. A common question that I get is, should I be taking both? Is one better than the other? There is really no such concept. You can take either one and they're equally weighed. There is some speculation that if you're trying to go into medicine or fields to do with science, they like to see an ACT. From a college admissions perspective, again, there isn't too much of a difference, but it could help you because of that added science portion. But if you guys have questions on that, again, put that in the chat. Just make sure that, again, standardized testing scores, I highly encourage you guys to opt in to take them at least, and then you can choose whether or not you want to include that in your application when you submit. Next, you have your resume and extracurriculars, and this is arguably one of the biggest chunks of your college application, right? Now that you put aside your grades, what do you do to show your passion or your initiatives? To kind of like delve a little bit deeper into here, Akshay, I wanted to ask you a question. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but could you tell us a little bit about what kind of extracurriculars you were involved in within high school that either helped you decide business or computer science in the end, and maybe things that really highlighted you in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was funny that you said I was well spoken because I'm roommates with Danu for some context, and we were always talking about how she's like so well spoken and always running around and like really inspiring. So you're in good hands with her. Um, for extracurriculars, I always emphasize quality over quantity. I think that in the beginning, absolutely explore everything. Like if you're a freshman and you are looking to figure out what you're interested in, majors, absolutely join everything you'd like to join. But as as high school goes on, make sure that you are really honing in on the things that not even what sounds good, but like what you really think you can create an impact to and what you enjoy doing. Because colleges can see right through joining like 10 different clubs for no reason. Really hone in on like two or three that you really like to do that you think is impactful, create impact on your community, and is helpful for your future. So some things that I did was I was very involved with the American Red Cross and volunteering and regional leadership. And then I was involved in DECA and got involved in my school level as well as the state level and really loved doing that. And that kind of allowed me to do a bunch of different like community engagement projects and just in general, like I guess get more involved in my community, which is something that colleges like to see. It's in a lot of the different prompts and things like that when you're going into college applications. Um, Other than that, I was involved with like one or two like voter education nonprofits. I was kind of back to the previous point of like doing a lot of exploration. I came into high school very much thinking I would go down the medical route. And so I did a lot of that my freshman and sophomore year. So I started to host a chapter in my school, volunteered at a hospital and things like that. But absolutely you can like use any experience that you do that's not related to like the field you want to go down in your conversations, in your essays and so on. So definitely recommend exploring and then specializing later on.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. And I actually wanted to pull out two of the details that you kind of mentioned. So, one thing is, if you noticed throughout Akshaya's journey, a lot of the things that she talked about were probably things that she stuck to for multiple years, and within it showed some sort of growth, right? Growth or initiative. So, for example, you started your hosted chapter, and that shows that you had a desire to learn something, and then you like actually took it into your own hands. No one forced you to do it as they would, I guess, in school, right? And on top of it, you definitely had a lot of growth mindset within the entire journey. For example, I'm just pinpointing on what I picked up, but for DECA, you start at your school level, then you probably went to district, like national, things of that sort, right? So growing throughout leadership positions, stuff like that. So those qualities that I mentioned right there are what are your transferable qualities. And we'll kind of touch upon that later, but this is the essence of what you want to build throughout your extracurriculars. Honestly, at the end of the day, as long as you have some relevant experience, you could literally have experience in technology, medicine, engineering, all of these diverse areas, and every single one of them will still benefit you when you're applying to a singular major within a college. Because, again, at the end of the day, you just have to show determination, initiative, leadership, ambition, passion, things of these sort. And all of these come regardless of the actual, title or genre of activity that you end up doing. So those are things that you should definitely keep in mind. And one other point is I also ended up in the same program as Akshaya, but my entire high school journey was very, very different. My nonprofit work or charity and volunteering was very different as well. And that again goes on to show that you want to create your own personal story. And that leads me to my next point with your essays and your personal story. So standard format of what you should expect when you're applying is one personal statement, which is standard for most of the colleges that you apply to. And this is going to be a longer essay. And the essence of it is going to be, okay, tell me about yourself, right? And then after that, what you have is a bunch of supplementary or short answer essays. These will be anything from 100 words to 350, etc. And these are going to start nitpicking into certain skills, right? For example, why are you choosing the major that you chose? Or tell me about a time that you had a good leadership quality, or tell me about a time that you failed. Very generic ones like this, or sometimes even specific. Like actually, I'm sure that you encountered this when you were applying for the scholarship in the later rounds. But what do you hope to gain as a 40-acre scholar, or what can you give back to this particular program? And all of those are going to be specifics.
Exactly. And it's more talking about with those essays, the fit for you and the college. But that's something to think about like a little bit later on. But it's cool to think about like right now, as in like what you might be looking for in a college.
And it's a two-way road. So it's going to help you obviously see what's happening in the college, but also as you're going through life, think about how you could depict yourself as a character that shows multiple different things. And I think that's something that someone told me that helped me shape my high school years to be a bit more impactful, and something that you guys could ponder upon as well. And last but not least, you have recommendations. And these last two things, as Akshay mentioned, are kind of later in your college admission process. And recommendations, just a quick note for you guys, make sure that you keep up good rapport with your teachers, the people that you work with, if you're working an internship with your managers, and don't lose touch with them because colleges really value getting these like second person input into who you are and your characteristics, and they really shine through on recommendations. And last but not least, I know I've been talking for a really long time, but another thing that you want to consider within holistic admissions is the college fit. And we'll talk about this a little bit more again, but think about the fact that at the end of the day, yes, you are trying to get into these colleges, but these colleges are recruiting you, right? And it has to be a two-way relationship, right? At the end of the day, you're picking one college for your undergrad and you're locking it in. And that means you have to make sure that it is a place that not only you'll be happy and comfortable in, but also an environment that helps you thrive. And with that, this might be a little bit of an overboard, but every college has some sort of a personality that it boasts, right? One thing that I can say about UT Austin is it's a very work hard, play hard mentality where every single person is very, very driven, involved in a million different things, and they have ambitions that they wear on their sleeves, very, very clearly show them, right? And there's two ways to approach this. One person might be like, I love being surrounded by such engagement because that pushes me to be an even better person myself and for me to be more ambitious. For another person, it could be like, I like more community and collaborative mindsets. And this to me would overwhelm me and make me feel more behind than I felt before, right? So things like this, you really find out by talking to people in these colleges, right? They say your network is your net worth. And that cliche phrase kind of works here too, in the sense of take the time to go on LinkedIn, Instagram, your parents' networks, and reach out to people in the colleges that you're potentially wanting to join. And don't just ask them questions of stuff that you can find on the college website, but dig deeper on, okay, what has your experience kind of been like? What kind of friends have you made? What kind of orgs are you in now? And how do you feel motivated? Do you feel like you've grown throughout the process? And that can really help you reflect and maybe create a better journey within your own processes. And that, guys, is the holistic admission process. And these are really wide umbrellas, and we could get into details for every single one of them. And I'm sure that you guys have questions. So feel free to pop them in the chat, and we can take a couple seconds to answer them. You can message me privately or put it to the entire chat as well. Okay, we have our first question, and they're asking, is it important to have your major basically chosen by the time that you enter high school, or is that something that you can choose later on? Akshay, do you want to start answering this?
Absolutely. This is something that you can definitely choose later on and highly recommend that because like even as a college student, I feel like I haven't explored everything that's out there, and that's obviously true, only 19 years old, but as a high school student, and coming into high school, you definitely haven't had the opportunities to potentially explore everything you want to explore. So it's really like it's a great idea to maybe come in being like, oh, I want to get involved in this, this, and this because I think it's fascinating, but absolutely keep an open mind, and make sure that you are like adapting to what you learn later on. So I think the like biggest recommendation here is like put yourself in scenarios and talk to people where you can get exposed to more.
I agree. And to kind of give you guys a timeline, literally until 2 to 3 months before your application process starts. So this is the August before your senior year. You still have time to build any relevant experience to put on your resume, right? Throughout your high school career, make sure that you're involved in stuff that talk about that transferable skill set that I mentioned before. And then let's say like, okay, you're a junior, it's January, your application is in 6 months, and you've decided all of a sudden, oh, I think computer science would be great. Well, now you have 6 months to maybe do a certificate, maybe go ahead and learn stuff on YouTube and do a personal project. So, like, there's a lot of opportunities that you can use to show demonstrated interest. So, no, it is by no means that you have to choose by ninth grade. But that being said, make sure that you're thinking about it throughout the year so you're feeling more prepared. All right. Okay. We have a couple of questions about volunteering hours, and it's kind of set around is there a set amount of volunteering hours the colleges would like to see? And does it matter what kind of volunteering work you do? And then a question about could you describe your nonprofit? Okay, so let's kind of break that down. I can hit on the first couple of things, and I think the nonprofit question was for you, Akshay. So then you can go. But real quick, so volunteering hours at the end of the day are to show your initiative with community building and giving back, right? That being said, there is no certain requirement for the amount of hours that you want to have. But a general rule of thumb that people say is have around 100 volunteering hours as you're going into college. My personal tip and recommendation is don't make those willy nilly hours, right? anyone and everyone really puts in hours of, okay, I worked for 10 hours at the food shelter, a couple of hours at the library, a couple of hours at my local church, blah, 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 blah. Right. And cool. That is really good work. And at the end of the day, please do that. Right. That being said, it makes more of an impact when you paint a picture with the passion or the dedication that you have in your volunteering work, right? For me particularly, I really, really liked working with children's education. So a lot of my volunteering work was actually surrounding tutoring, running camps like this, and doing piano lessons, things like that, to raise funds that I then donated to children's shelters, organizations of that sort. And that is something that really speaks to my heart. So I decided to do this. And all of a sudden, my 100 hours have a much, much deeper meaning than that first example that I've given you guys. So be intentional with it. And one last point before I give it to Akshaya, that 100 hours that I said differs from field to field. If you are looking at more social oriented majors, right? Maybe public health or anything in medical or public sector work, so government policy, things of that sort, then I would highly encourage that you do more of this work. And this is not just to show a number on the screen, but to show you guys that you should be like taking in this experience to see if this is a field that you want to work in, right? That demonstrated interest works heavier in the volunteering aspect for those majors than it does others. So that's something to keep in mind. And Akshaya, could you talk about a little bit about your nonprofit? What was your journey with it? Stuff of that sort.
Absolutely. Just to touch on the volunteering again, I think one way to make that feel really easy and not really think about it like as a number of hours is one, find ways that you can like every week you can recurringly like volunteer or plan or just take a leadership position in a volunteer organization or find ways to contribute like weekly and they like seeing that continued interest in your community. Or two, try to find a personal project or like what Danu was saying, like she taught piano lessons and then donated that to charity. And that's a way to like show an activity, show a skill that Danu has, and then be able to use that towards like a better cause. And so those are like really great and easy ways to get in volunteering hours. Some work that I did, and I want to preface being like this was not my main like activities or anything like that. I worked with a voter education nonprofit that, and we would like provide accessible, nonpartisan information about different candidates in local and state elections more than just national elections, because we saw that was the problem, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the social issues that resulted from, or social like topics and debates that resulted from that. And not completely, I guess, directly relevant, but I also did a few different projects where we like ran a campaign and then donated the funds to nonprofits. So those are technically still volunteering opportunities. They're just maybe a little bit more like non-conventional, not through an organization.
Yeah, and that's a good point, guys. At the end of the day, volunteering hours don't have to be like physical hours because again, this is a big misconception, and I think someone has a question on it too. But there is no one's keeping track saying that, oh, did you really do 12 hours at this particular shelter at this particular day? That doesn't happen. That's a record that you should have for your own integrity for yourself. But rather, the way you show your volunteering hours is through your resume. And in your resume, you have a section that you dedicate to it. And you kind of estimate a ballpark saying, oh, I did 4 hours per week for 20 weeks at blank blank activity. So again, what you do is more important than the title of it at the end of the day. Great. Okay, so I'll take two more questions and then we're gonna move on and then come back to the question. So keep sending in your questions. I promise we'll get to them. Another one that we had is, how are each of the categories weighted? For example, is academic transcript more important than extracurricular or vice versa? Great question. Thing about holistic admissions over process is the fact that a lot of these are really equally weighted. So 5 things, I would easily say almost each one of them is equal. You can categorize it. You could say a good like 40% has to do with your academics. So that would mean both your transcript and your standardized test scores. A good another 40 to 50% really is dependent on your extracurriculars and essays. Nowadays, more than ever on that. And this also includes stuff like getting interviews, doing screenings, things of that sort that some colleges do have. That I'll kind of bulk load into that 50%. And then the last 10% would be recommendations. And this is to say that if you get a really bad SAT score, but all of your other things are well, you can still get into the top colleges that you want to. And maybe your grades in school aren't that well, but you balance that with a really good ACT score, and you have amazing extracurriculars. Well, again, that balances out. And this is to show that you're not going to be a perfect person in all five of these umbrellas. That's very hard to do. And it overall uplifts you. There is not one thing that's going to make or break your application. And one more question. Okay, yeah, we'll touch on this more later too, but actually, I do want to talk a little bit about just like what the 40-acre scholarship like process was like for you. And just to highlight this, guys, every scholarship works differently, and this is a very specific one. So she'll explain her process through it. But remember that there's going to be like similar elements throughout other scholarships and different elements too. So it's not like the fact not every single thing works in this way, but this is a very notable one, and I think a lot of people want to hear this. So could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And I want to re-emphasize what Danu said. Like every scholarship program is very different and it's very, very difficult to know how the process looks like because they genuinely don't like have any rubrics or anything like that. Any insight that I have is potentially just from talking to people being in the program. Um, I also want to preface saying that all of this, while you can put your absolute best foot forward, it is what can seem like a little bit random. And the good thing about college admissions is that there's like a lot of different shots, a lot of different opportunities available. And so making sure that all of this is good, then you're going to make sure that you get the best opportunity for you. But anyways, all of that was to preface. 40 Acre Scholars Program is a full ride scholarship, but more than that, it is they take around 20 people a year. Um, it's supposed to still follow like the 90% in-state rule and then the 10% out-of-state rule. But my year, I believe there was a few more out-of-state, like I believe four out-of-state and then 16 in-state. So that's still, if you're from Texas, good odds. Um, so for the actual program, it's of course the scholarship component, but there's also a lot of different insights that you can get into the Texas Exes or the alumni organization. And the alumni organization is who sponsors your scholarship. So different alumnus and different organizations can come to Texas Exes, the alumni organization, and be like, I want to give this amount of funds to fund this scholarship that can um, cover someone's like tuition and living expenses and so on. And from there, you like the actual admission process, you get an email. So you apply to UT normally, and this has changed actually from in the last couple of years. So typically, and previously you just applied while you applied to UT, but that's not true anymore, or at least it isn't true this year, and it hasn't been true in previous years or in the last 2 years. But I believe from now on, you get an email invitation being like, hey, we looked at your college admission like packet and we want you to apply for this scholarship. And I'm not sure about the exact numbers, so I think some 4,000 people get that. Then from there, you write an essay. Every year it changes. I think mine was how how would you fit into the 40 Acres Scholars Program and what would you contribute to the program? And then from there, that'll go through a screening and you'll get invited for a semifinalist interview, which is usually with like an alumnus or someone from UT or the 40 Acre staff. And then from there, you get selected to be a finalist, and at which point you come in to UT for a weekend and they have a bunch of panels, and they show you all really cool things in UT. And you pretty much interview with your last round of interview right there. And then you find out a couple of weeks later. Sorry, that was a long explanation.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And just to like summarize almost, with the particular scholarship that Akshaya is under, it wasn't a separate application that you had to do in the initial round, right? She applied to UT Austin like every single other person does. And then because of her outstanding application, they reached out to her and they were like, hey, we would love if you would try for the process of getting into the 40 acre scholarship. And through that, she had multiple rounds. Now, lots of other scholarships also exist. And these are things that you kind of have to seek out by yourself, right? There's some things that make you eligible for some, for example, being a PSAT finalist or semi-finalist. That gives you some scholarships in some universities, right? So as a finalist, I got a full ride from UTD, 2/3 tuition off of I believe it was USC, things of this sort, right? That made me eligible for those scholarships. On the other hand, there's the application based ones that you can find that are both university specific, but also third party, right? For example, I got a scholarship from Hilton, right? And that's obviously a hotel, it's not a scholarship. Sorry, it's not a university. And all of these companies have scholarships that you can apply to. Slightly random, but I know that the Taco Bell scholarship right now is open. So is the Coca-Cola scholarship. And these are big, Fortune 500 companies that are doing this, but you'd be surprised with how many local scholarships there are as well. If you're trying to go down the medicine path, a lot of shelters or community centers, nonprofits, they have scholarships to offer. And if you're like, there's like majors based in that sort, and there's also category based. If you're a first generation student, if you're a minority, if you're a woman, things of these sort. So lots and lots of opportunities are out there. Again, you guys just need to be researching and try to actively find a lot of these things. But yeah, okay, so we'll pause on the questions for just a bit and kind of go through a couple other points that we had prepared for y'all. And then again, we're going to stick around for a bit and answer any questions that you have. All right. And the next thing that we wanted to kind of talk about is choosing a path, right? We're going to be talking about majors, what are honors programs, what are dual degrees, and college versus the program. What is more important? Because that is a very common question. So to start off, to talk about majors, I wanted to talk about that college fit aspect that I told you before. To figure out if a college is your best fit, as I mentioned numerous times, you have to research into multiple different aspects. And one of the big ones is going to be this concept of majors and what programs are available for you. And as we talk about the next couple of things, some things to keep in mind is how am I going to build my college list to reflect the choices that I'm about to make? A rule of thumb is the 2-4-2 rule, 2 safety schools, 4 reach schools, 2 target schools. What this means is safety schools are things where with your caliber and with your current application, you could say with almost a really good confidence that you would be able to get in here. You would be able to afford it, almost like a backup, or at least like I would be happy going here at the end of the day. Now, reach schools are going to be your golden schools, right? These are, according to my level, these would be an amazing fit. I can say with like 60 to 80% certainty that I would get in. And like this would be my like Goldilocks like era. Like this is where I know that I have the best chances of being in while also challenging myself. And then for targets, you have commonly like Ivy Leagues, really, really top tier schools where it's like, even if you're a stellar applicant, you're still going to have kind of a harder time getting into these, right? So these target schools would also be two. So the alpha feature popped in. I would recommend having 2 safety, 2 target, and 4 reach, and from there scale up as you see fit. And a lot of the things that we'll talk about later, like obviously use the college websites, but LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. This is the one time that I'm going to promote stalking in the sense of find colleges that you want find students in these colleges and by no means be shy when you're reaching out to these people. I think both me and Akshaya get these sorts of like DMs and stuff like that all this time of, oh, like you go to blank blank. I would love to talk to you more. And we can say from the bottom of our hearts, we're always happy and willing to do so. So don't be scared. Use these social media websites to get to know people so that you can get to know the colleges and majors as well. Now, to talk about majors, as I've kind of been leading you guys, I want to start with what is a major, right? A major is a certain concentration that you're having in your undergrad or master's. We're just going to stick to undergrad for now. So, within your undergrad, what is a concentration of your studies? Right. And your major is going to determine what kind of course content you're going to be exposed to. And this is something that you can very easily find out. And I actually think is something that a lot of people don't look at. So if I want to go to UC Berkeley, and I'm thinking, okay, I like computer science or engineering. If you search up engineering tracks within UC Berkeley, you're going to see a bunch of majors. Now you're like, okay, now I'm lost. What do I apply to? Well, you can search up, let's take mechanical engineering, for example. I can search up UC Berkeley mechanical engineering coursework, and you're going to see the titles of every single course that you're probably going to take as a student in that major. Now, with this information, you should think about future prospects. Okay, I'm learning about predictive analytics. I'm learning about blank, 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 blank. With these, I feel like I'd be really equipped to go into product development or project management or whatever that field may be. And then you want to see, okay, like if I want to be an software engineer for a big company, like a FANG company, what would my lifestyle look like? Okay, I'll be making this much money. Am I happy with that? Okay, I'm not so happy with that. Then, okay, let's maybe pivot. What major would better equip me for something else? That being said, you by no means have to have all of this figured out. Again, me and Akshaya even don't know what field and career we want to end up in. And even more interestingly, so you'll notice that your parents or the professionals in your life, they didn't know in the beginning either. They had to go through a whole maze to kind of get where they are today. So these are just things to consider when you're thinking of, oh, is this major better for me or is this major better for me? Obviously, you need to look at different aspects to be able to deduce that for yourself. I've just found that it's often confusing for people to know how to approach that. So, and these are just a couple of ways that you can approach finding your major. Next, things that you want to consider are going to be your current interests and passions, the skills that you have, like I talked about before, your career prospects and academic requirements. There was actually someone that asked a question. Are there certain majors or colleges that require you to do certain coursework before you get in? Yes. For example, I think it's very popular within medical and engineering specifically, where they have a couple of prerequisites like finishing XYZ math course or XYZ physics course, something of that sort to kind of get in. These are things that you do kind of want to think about prematurely, but I do find often that it's not too restrictive if you're following the academic plans that most high schools have for you. Not super prominent, but just because someone asked a question, I did want to address that. And when you're kind of going through this major selection process, and I realized that there's everything from freshmen to juniors in this call, and this actually applies to every single one of you guys. Make sure you're evaluating as you go through your high school years again and again over these different points. You should never be like, okay, I picked this day one, I have to stick to it. Never the case. Me coming into high school, I wanted to do medical for a while. Then I wanted to do computer science. I considered law for a really long time. And then I settled down into business, right? And this is all in like 3 years. And every single person will tell you they kind of did the same. So explore, don't stick to one, continuously like question yourself because the best time to switch is now. If you want to switch once you've come into college, it is doable, but that's going to cost you a lot more time, money, especially, and effort. And it's just going to be a little bit harder. So definitely explore now. And last but not least, remember that it's malleable. Again, someone asked this question. So I'm really glad that you guys had preemptive questions, right? Of if I pick a major, is that like determining everything to do with my future? No. You can have minors, certificates, double majors, things of that sort that enhance your application. And sorry, you as an applicant, I guess, in terms of what you want to specialize in. I'll take business this time for an example. I have a friend who's double majoring in business and sustainability studies, and he wants to go into things of finance within the world of sustainability. And that is a really, really big sector to be working in right now. And you might think that, oh, I'm a business major. Like, why would I go that way? I promise you, the world is your oyster when it comes to college and putting your career into movement of that way. I have another, like staying on the business trend, I have a friend that's a finance major, but he's going into law and he wants to go into patent law. And things of that sort. And he can still do that because he's taking a law and order certificate and that's helping him enhance his study. Another friend who's doing data science and international relations, right? So all these combinations are very possible. So remember that you're not determined by the major alone. And I'll just skim over this for the interest of time. But after you look at majors in colleges, when you're making this list, also definitely look at the other programs available. When you look at honors programs, think research into the research opportunities that they have there. Every honors program has a lot of benefits. For the one that me and Akshaya are in right now, we get a really small defined cohort, so lots of friends that really uplift you throughout your career. But also, we have access to a different set of professors, a different set of counselors and faculty. And there's also a lot more scholarships that are awarded to honor students. And that is just to speak about the one that we're in. It differs from honors to honors. Look at all of these so that you can definitely apply. You will notice that 80% of people that would have gotten into these honors programs pretty easily don't because they simply don't apply. I promise you, you have the time to write one more short answer. Don't tell yourself no before they can say it for you. So definitely apply to these programs as you find them. And then other things that I wanted to quickly mention for honors is dual degree and combined programs. So sorry, let me clarify my English there. Not part of honors programs. These are separate. So dual degrees can mean two things. You can either double major and get two different degrees. For example, at UT, there's a CSB program where you do computer science and business, and you get both degrees. Or you could do like a dual degree where it's combined master's and undergrad, right? There's a lot of popular courses that do that as well. And again, you have to research to be able to find these. So remember, when you're choosing your major that you're applying to, you want to think about all of these other things that kind of add into that. And in this process of figuring out what you want to apply to, I assure you, you're going to find a lot of niche details about the college that you can integrate into your essays, that you can integrate into your choice list as you kind of go through it. All right. Okay. So quite the ramble there, but just remember your major can't define you. Your program is always going to be worth more than the prestige of your college. I had a friend who was debating between going to UPenn for a major that they didn't really like resonate with, or go to UT or UC Berkeley for the major that they did want. Right. And you might be thinking, okay, UPenn's an Ivy, like that's a no brainer. Why wouldn't you go there? And this is for this person, both of these were financially feasible. So I'm putting finance out of the window. At the end of the day, she ended up choosing UC Berkeley and is infinitely happier with her choice because if you're not liking the work that you're doing, the environment really does not matter. So I highly would recommend choosing your major and your program over the prestige of the college, which is something that we can get wrapped up in really easily. And last but not least, use that network. Find people that go to these colleges, ask your questions so you're not, blindsided when you kind of get there. All right. And now I'll take it over to Oshaya. I want you guys to kind of understand what the out of state process kind of looks like and what it can mean for you. A lot of times we find it really daunting to go outside of our own state and even like consider that as an opportunity. And it's a question that I've gotten lots and lots of time. So I really wanted to make sure that we address that with someone who's kind of gone through the experience herself. So I'll give it to you.
Okay. So for out of state, um, you're kind of considering the same factors that Danu talked about this like entire time. The like cool thing about out of state is that you're not limiting yourself to just the universities and what they have to offer in your state. So if you're looking at a program that is not maybe as well established in the state schools or anything like that, then you have so many more opportunities if you don't like kind of discount the out of state. So absolutely try your hardest for in-state. And I'll talk more about the merits of in-state well as we go on. But also like make sure that of course like make it if it's financially feasible and it's something you're open to, that it's like a great opportunity. Um, when we're talking about finances, it is a big factor. I had only found out about my scholarship at the very end of my process, so this was something that I was, of course, thinking about like entire time, even the entire time I was thinking about colleges and some of the reasons I passed on a lot of different colleges. Know that finances are a big deal. Going out of college with a loan or having a huge strain on your family when you're in college is not like an ideal situation, especially if you're considering two colleges that are still very good, but one is maybe slightly more prestigious or anything like that, because at the end of the day, it's what you make out of your college experience. Also remember that other than just tuition, other expenses can be higher or lower going to out of state. For instance, we put in a couple of grand for me to travel back and forth home whenever I like need to, and that's a big deal. And so on. Also, there's a lot of scholarships out in every university that offer potentially in-state tuition waivers. There's even some ways to get in-state tuition while you're out of state. Look into potentially getting property in different states. Um, this is not super talked about, but it's decently commonly done. If you can become a resident somehow or show college proof that you have ties to the state, then you may be able to get in-state tuition, and that is a factor to consider. Again, like living expenses is fairly different. You can't really um, you have to account for maybe even storage costs. Like, what would you do over the summer if you can't just drive your things back home and things like that? So that's just something to discuss with your family and think about throughout the process. But also, even if finances are a bigger factor, do not discount out-of-state colleges if you're open to it, because scholarships and grants and so on are very much a big factor to look into while you're doing your college admission process. Okay, culture and environment. This is not much different than if you, whatever you would consider in-state. Of course, out of state, if you are open to it, means that you're just have so many more cultures, environments to potentially be involved in. But I want to emphasize the importance of this into your success in college. Um, this is not really related to out of state, but I'm so happy that I chose UT because it's an extremely collaborative environment compared to potentially other schools that I was considering. And this wasn't something that I was really thinking about when I was doing college admissions and like college applications and even touring schools, but it's something that is probably the most important factor to me right now because it defines so much of how I feel day to day and how much of my best foot forward I can put in school and to my career and just have fun. Like you only have 4 years of college and it's a big time of growth for you. And then academic opportunities. Absolutely, just research. The thing with out of state is you don't really know as many people going to those colleges. So if you do know anyone, absolutely reach out to them. Anyone is willing to talk to you if you are like willing to put in the work to reach out to them. You could even cold message people, and I've done this once or twice, or a few times, but then typically what's more effective is going second or third degree connection. So it'd be like, hey, like it's my friend's dad and he has a college friend at here or something like that. So go there and you'll get really great successes in talking to that. You could even like name drop or be like, this person told me about this incredible program, or this person told me about the culture at this university, and that's like great on college applications because it shows that again, like it's a two-way street, like what Danu says, like they want you to, and they want people who want to be there because then they're going to contribute a lot in your college and they're more likely to choose your like their college. So yes, absolutely that. And then lastly, opportunity cost. I think again, that's something to like consider, and that's kind of what I've been touching on this entire time. Think about all the pros and cons of going out of state. And part of the cons is like genuinely just missing your family and being somewhat homesick a little bit of the time. But how I try to think about it is um, a lot of us at any time will move away from home at some point. And so absolutely it's a factor to consider, but it just depends on when you want to make that choice. Also, it's it gets a lot easier and being 3 hours of a drive away from home versus like 3 hours of flight doesn't mean anything too big. That's
Thank you for sharing that. I guess one question that I had for you, Akshaya, is at the end of the day, what would you say was your biggest factor in choosing to go out of state over probably the other admissions that you had in maybe like in-state colleges or elsewhere? What was like maybe like one big thing that motivated you to go ahead and do it in the end?
absolutely. Other than finances, which is a big factor. I would say the program for me, again, like what Thando was saying, program over college, like 100 times over. There's so many colleges that you might not think about, but have incredible engineering programs or aerospace programs or medical programs or so much more. Like program. If you can find like again, the honors program was a big reason I came to UT and was considering it even before scholarship decisions. Because genuinely like having the big school, but then having that small community inside of it and having access to those opportunities was really like impactful for me. Again, like the one factor, but what we were talking about opportunity costs, like that was the opportunity cost for me.
Got it. Thank you for sharing, Akshaya. And in terms of content, that's what we have for you guys. And for the rest of the time, we wanted to open up the floor for questions. And before we do that, and before you guys leave, I just had two quick favors to ask you guys. First off, please scan this form and fill it out. And this is my way of like getting to know who ended up joining this call and who we had the chance to kind of talk to today. But also, it's going to give you guys the chance to let me know what kind of concepts you want to go over in the future, stuff that you have questions over, so that I can make sure that as we continue this series, we can give you access to the best types of information that you guys need. So please go ahead and scan this form or take the link that is on the screen. And I will be sharing the recording for this entire video if you go ahead and fill out this form as well. This is your way of getting access to it. And if you're not already there, I'm going to switch screens in just a second. So hopefully you guys scan this form. But I'm kind of going to take us back to this front page right here. There's a WhatsApp group that I have. That's that second QR code right there. That's where I've been sending a lot of the reminders, a lot of additional questions, and when you guys have questions, that's a place that you can ask. And not only me, but a really big community of people in the same boat are on that chat and more than willing to help and answer. And I also had a lot of people asking about SAT classes and such, stuff that 9th, 10th, and 11th graders can do. And I actually have a batch starting up next week. So January 14th, I believe, to get you guys prepared for the school day SAT that is coming up in March. So there's going to be a 2-month crash course. And that's going to still cover all of the content that I usually do in my 3-month courses. But this one's really going to prep you for that March SAT. That being said, I have very limited seating left for this one. So if you are interested, please scan that QR code or reach out to me afterwards. And I'm more than happy to guide you in the way of like registering for it and going from there. So again, very limited availability there. So please act on it fast so that I can get you guys a spot and get you in. So the SAT class link is over there as well. If the QR codes don't work for y'all, let me know and I can put the link in the form. So definitely join the WhatsApp group. I'll be posting the video recording of this there today. And if you fill out any of these forms, I'll be getting it out and reaching out to you guys as well.